the connection between Dolores Cannon, Nostradamus, and the event in Notre Dame on the 15th of April 2019. So, I connected with Dolores and I have received the following information. This was an agreement between Dolores and Nostradamus before they both incarnate into physical. They are both very connected. They have a twin flame connection. I will go into that later to connect the final dots. But I will start by saying that they have a twin flame connection. In that sense, they have a very strong bond and an agreement to work together to trigger each other and certain events in a massive scale this time on Earth and in the now as we perceive it at this moment in time. And their connection was also in some way connected with the concept of time, because they were time travelers and they stretched time, and they are both master manifestors of time and space, playing with the universal principles, triggering the collective consciousness. So Dolores and Nostradamus are both working parallel in the etheric, what we call Akashic records, where they are both working on keeping ancient knowledge. So Dolores was here, as far as we know, at least 3 times, every time working within the same concepts and principles. Her first life was in ancient Greece. She was somehow connected with awakening a certain consciousness within that time frame. I don't have much details about that life, but it was definitely very significant. We all know the wisdom that came through the ancient times of Greece. She came for the second time as a librarian in the Alexandrian libraries in Egypt. She was again having a similar mission within her librarian Akashic Records job. This time it was in the biggest library on earth in Alexandria. She was keeper of knowledge, keeping these records safe, and she actually died while she was within the fire that the church had spread to destroy all this knowledge. And she tried to save this knowledge, but because she was so eager to save these books, she didn't have enough time to leave the library, so she burned during the fire. And she decided to come again, this time with a much bigger mission, connecting with Nostradamus in a huge way, working together. So in this life, they had a pre-agreement that they would meet in a 0 point no time space, where they would bring information through. That's what they both did. So they had an agreement to connect at this time to trigger certain events, and one of them is what happened in the Notre Dame, of course. So Dolores and Nostradamus were twin flames, and twin flames are known for triggering each other and also triggering in some cases events of bigger scale. So Dolores, in this life, she was a female. She was representing the divine feminine. And Nostradamus, in the life that he lived back then, he was representing the divine masculine. And at that time that he was on earth, the divine masculine was ruling. It was time of big darkness. It was time of big suppression. The church was really ruling in really big scale. And so he was, let's say, an avatar, a representation of that energy, but his mission was to awaken and trigger certain things and bring forth knowledge. So Dolores, through her work in this life, she time traveled in order to accomplish her agreement with Nostradamus to connect, go back, travel back in time, to connect with him and to bring forth the information that he had given at that time, which at that time he gave it encoded, because of course he had to protect himself from the manipulation of the church. So one of her missions was to bring forth that knowledge of that what he represented at that time, which was very challenging at that time for this information to come through. She time traveled to bring forth this information in the now, in a way that would be more understood, to interpret basically his messages of that time. I say they are twin flames. This has many expressions and explanations. So they were twin flames, so they were triggering each other. So basically when Dolores went back at that time traveled to connect with him, he was a male and he was very, his energy was very masculine and he was kind of influenced by a patriarchic society. And so when Dolores connected with him, she in some way triggered him as a female, as a woman with power, with wisdom, with knowledge. And he was very challenged with this connection. And the same for her, because she was a very powerful female. She believed in the power of the divine feminine, and even though she never talked about it, we could all see how much she was embodying this feminine power. And so she was also triggered by this connection. She never really not accepted it, but she never really was in peace with it, because he was a man, because she could feel his energy that was very dominant. And anyhow, they triggered each other in that way, time traveling and stretching. They both stretched each other, they stretched time, they connected, and this connection manifested on the 15th of April of 2019 with the fire in the Notre Dame. The fire of the Notre Dame was an event that was planned, that was both the souls had agreed to be within the energy that they were carrying, this very powerful energy, to trigger this event, this reactivation and this reconnection of the twin flame connection was actually what in a way assisted and triggered the fire in the Notre Dame. And the whole idea behind, the whole intention behind this operation was to signify this new era that we are on, this returning of the divine feminine through a cleansing, through a symbolic massive event of the church being burned. Within this whole thing there are incredible symbolisms. It was on Dolores' birthday. The fire of Notre Dame was done on Dolores Cannon's birthday. What does that mean? It's very simple and very symbolic. Dolores' birthday was the day symbolizing the birth of the divine feminine. So it was the day that the event happened, the fire happened, was symbolizing the rebirth of the divine feminine. And if Dolores was alive, she would be 88 years old. This is a very powerful number. Wow. This number, if you look on numerology, is one of the most powerful numbers, and it symbolizes the birth of a new era. And that was the birth of the divine feminine and the cleansing of the old and the breaking down of the manipulation of the divine masculine and the church. And also another thing that was it's very important to note here is that Nostradamus, the name Nostradamus, is a Latinized name of the original name of Nostradamus, which was Michel de Notre Dame. No mistakes here, no coincidences. And Nostradamus, Michel de Notre Dame, was intimately connected to Mother Mary, which again symbolizes the divine feminine and her connection with Jesus. And anyway, so this was an event that has very, very strong symbology. That's how these dots are connected. You can go even deeper. So basically, Dolores and Nostradamus are both master manifestors playing with universal principles of time-space, triggering collective consciousness, and their twin flame connection resulted or triggered the flames which burned the Tower of Notre Dame, the end of the old and the birth of a new era.